Of course, Tobago Thursdays continues right here on Now, and it's time for another Tobago Carnival update. Joining us is Councillor Tashia Burris, Secretary of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation. Good morning, Councillor, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me on. Good morning to all your viewers, near and far, Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for the opportunity to share about Carnival in October in Tobago.
It's a pleasure to have you with us on the show this morning, Councillor Burris. Share with us, what would you say are some of the key updates that we need to know right now in preparation for next weekend?
Sure. So we had a security briefing, I think it was the day before yesterday, and what we did was basically outline in terms of our preparations on this end, how ready we are to host Trinidad and the world to the second edition of Tobago October Carnival. We had with us ACP Collis Hazel, who is basically in charge of the security and safety plans for the carnival. We also had Director Alan Stewart from FEMA, and he basically gave an overview of what the police and the fire service and all of these stakeholders, what their response would be in terms of laying out their plans to ensure that our spectators, our masqueraders, everybody who's visiting during this time is going to ensure that they come to Tobago, they enjoy themselves safely, and they get back home to their houses safely. We also revealed the final route for the carnival. This year's biggest change is that we have centralized all of the festivities. So persons who participated last year would have gotten the opportunity to traverse the entire island, because we had activities in Crown Point, we had activities in Roxborough, and they culminated in Scarborough on the final day. However, this year we have gone the route of centralizing all of our carnival activities. So all three main activities of the carnival weekend, which would be the Juve, the night mass, or the masquerade that we call it, and our parade of the bands are going to take place in Scarborough. So all the bands are following essentially the same route, the same picturesque route that takes you from the waterfront to a highway between two forests. It almost feels like that, back to the climax in Scarborough. We're expecting a larger turnout of persons this year in terms of masqueraders, because one of our biggest goals was to try to encourage more Tobagonians to participate in playing mass rather than spectating, because traditionally we are not necessarily mass players. We have a few persons who religiously go to Trinidad every year, or they visit other carnivals throughout the year. But we try to encourage as many persons who have never taken the opportunity to play mass before to take the opportunity to play mass this year. So we lent some support to the Tobago October Carnival Association, which is an amalgamation of all the mass bands who are taking part in October Carnival. And, I think we achieved that goal in terms of getting more persons to understand that, yes, Tobago has mass bands. Yes, we have great quality of mass, similar to Trinidad, similar to where you will see in other places. And there's a variety of mass available for persons to play, because we don't just have what people call pretty mass, but we have opportunities for persons to participate in cultural productions and traditional mass presentations on the road. And all of that will come together in a huge production. So really what we are planning for the rest of the world to see is the flair of a Tobago production, showing all of the elements of our history and our culture coming alive on the street. And the masqueraders who are going to be in their pretty mass costumes will be able to Lego themselves in the best way possible and, enjoy themselves. And as I say, climax into that final day.
Councillor Burris, thank you so much for sharing that update with us this morning. Tell us, what are the numbers looking like for Tobago Carnival 2023 to the island?
So let me tell you something. Numbers are funny things. I would tell you that yesterday I got numbers for Juve around 15,000 people. So I would tell you that it's only on the day we will see what is happening. We're still monitoring the weather, because what happened last year was that we had some bad weather in between, and that would have affected participation. So I don't want to give you a number and say we expect this amount of people, and then by 2 days later we're getting some bad weather reports. We are monitoring the weather. We hope that the current weather patterns hold, but I can tell you that everything coming to Tobago is booked, from the air to the port. A lot of people are journeying to Tobago to experience the second edition of our carnival, and I believe that we would surpass the figures that we had last year in terms of participation.
Wonderful. Councillor Burris, you just actually helped segue into my next question, which is, what about getting to the island? How has that been when it comes to possibly negotiating with transportation and so much more?
Well, I would tell you that the Port Authority has really done yeoman service in terms of putting on the additional sailings, because they have the capacity to bring over more persons within one sailing than an airline could in one day, based on the amount of trips that a plane could make. So I would have to give kudos to the Port Authority for really stepping up and demonstrating that they want to see the Tobago Carnival succeed. Certainly on the end of CAL, they have put on as many services as they could, and I understand that those services are subscribed 100%. So at this point, if you really, really need to get to Tobago, you'll have to try standby at the port, have to try standby at the airport. But I would tell you that if you go that route, you will not regret coming to Tobago.
Absolutely. Well, we know for sure there's never a reason to regret coming to Tobago, so especially at Carnival time. Now, let's talk about the hotel industry. How prepared is the hotel industry for this coming week? We spoke a little bit earlier about Tobago Carnival and the calendar that's coming up, and it sounds as though there are many people who are already on the island. Are the hotels ready?
So they have always been ready. Tourism is our mainstay. And what has happened in the last few years in particular is that we have grown in terms of the amount of events that Tobago has been hosting. So our hoteliers, from the time we fully reopened after COVID, knew that we had to get back out there, get back in the minds of people. So they're happy for Carnival, because October is traditionally a low season, both on the domestic side and the international side. It's just at the beginning of winter season, so you don't see international arrivals pick up until late November, December. And then on your domestic side, you have a drop-off from July, August, because school is open, not many people traveling, that kind of thing. So having the Carnival in the middle of a traditional low season for both domestic arrivals and international arrivals has done great for our hotel sector. I can tell you that we have very strong numbers in terms of our small guest houses and our villas in particular. Villas have become very, very popular since COVID, and they were the first set of accommodation to be booked up for the Carnival. And in terms of the hotels, there's still a few rooms ready. So if you happen to get over, you shouldn't have an issue booking at a hotel. But I would tell you the smaller properties, the guest houses, the Airbnbs, bed and breakfasts, and our villas have been doing a lot of strong business when it comes to the Carnival bookings and accommodation. And as I said, there are a few rooms available in hotels across the island. So if you didn't get the ticket and the magic ticket falls into your lap, whether it be by plane or boat, you can still get to rest your head at one of our larger hotels, whether it be the Magdalena or Mount Irving Bay Hotel or the Grand Colland. They should still have a few rooms available.
This is wonderful to hear, and also it's great to hear that the villas, Airbnbs and so much more have already been booked out, and that's the beauty of Tobago Carnival, bringing a sense of home to the celebrations as well. But let's also touch a bit on the ground transport in particular. Of course, when we see those who are staying in villas and so much more, 9 out of 10 times there's the option of either taxiing or even renting vehicles. What has that been like when it comes to feedback from rental companies and from taxi drivers on the ground?
So I would tell you that last year, no car rental company on the western side of the island had a vehicle available. In fact, some in the east and the northeast side of the island also reported that all of their cars were out that weekend. And it demonstrated to us that there is a product that we can grow that will max out our capacity in terms of our ability to supply. I anticipate the same. So if you haven't made your bookings with a car rental as yet, do so as quickly as possible. But outside of that, Tobago has a very robust ground transportation system. We have PTSC on board as one of our stakeholders. And we, in terms of discussing with them where the pickups will be, where, in terms of where buses will be made available for persons to traverse from where they're staying to where they need to get to. PTSC has stepped up and pledged their support to ensure that all goes well with that. And we had, as one of our stakeholders as well, representatives from our various taxi associations. They have also stepped up to the challenge in terms of ensuring that their drivers understand where the events are taking place, the duration of the events, where they would have to spread their services. So this year was a really a huge collaborative effort with a number of stakeholders, because I think one of the things we took for granted last year was the amount of people who are touched by an event of this magnitude. And this year, in terms of our approach, we invited more people to the table to help planning. And even the church was involved. And you would not think that the church will be concerned with a carnival, but the reality is that that where the carnival is taking place, we have about 3 or 4 churches that operate in that area. And when we had conversations with them, you know, they were very amenable to giving way to the festivities. They made plans to either change where they were having their services or things like that. And they have been very, very helpful. And I must say that the Tobago stakeholders in general have been very embracing of this event. So all hands have been on deck from day one, so that I can say that all is ready at this point for us to welcome everyone to Tobago shores to have a great carnival experience on the greatest little island on the planet.
It's beautiful to hear that all hands are on deck for this Tobago Carnival, and that you have the investment from those who are, of course, outside of the carnival industry as well. Now, you touched briefly on, you know, the cultural aspect of Tobago Carnival. What about the involvement from those stakeholders? How has participation been so far in preparation for next weekend?
So, we have 2 sets of cultural stakeholders that will be involved in the actual parade. So let me talk about the parade first. The parade is going to be split in 2. And so we have the pretty mass bands going in one direction along the route and giving those persons the opportunity to revel in paradise, you know, break away basically. But on the other side of the route, we're going to have something of a waterfront production. So they are coming down onto the Milford Road very early in the morning to showcase to the spectators the beauty, the creativity, our talent, our history, everything boiled up into one. So that production is entitled A Taste of the Melting Pot. And what that gives is a taste of everything Tobago on the waterfront in the faces of our spectators, in collaboration with the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Bands Association, who have done great work for us in terms of trying to get the King and Queen's costumes up to parade on the road again this year. I must thank the executive of the TTCBA for assisting us as far as they have been able to in terms of ensuring that we get those costumes up to be able to be part of the parade. So what the first part of the parade that people would see would be those cultural presentations and those cultural groups. And we have groups from across Tobago. So you're going to see traditional heritage stuff. You're going to see people's interpretation of different historical events. You're going to see a speech band and a paper doll. You're going to see black devils. You're going to see all of these elements that people are used to. Some you will see up close and personal, some new things that you've never seen before. So, as I said, the title of that production is Taste of the Melting Pot. We want to give our spectators something to keep them going throughout the rest of the day. So that parade is in the first part of the morning, and then the afternoon we make way for all the pretty bands who would be climaxing their jump up at the waterfront. In terms of cultural groups in general, what we have for this carnival is we wanted to have different types of activities in Tobago Carnival, and not just let it be 3 days of what we normally know as carnival activities. And then in the run-up, we have a number of fets. We felt that in Tobago, we had the opportunity to have a more varied mix of events and activities so that we can have things both for an older, mature audience as well for a very, very young audience. So one of those prime examples is the Queen of the Road musical, which is taking place on Friday night. So, I mean, I know it was a concept tried a couple of years ago in Trinidad in terms of carnival theatre, but we have taken theatre by storm since TPAC, which is the Tobago Performing Arts Company, came into being. We started with Bitter Cassava last year. We did Once on This Island this year. Their third production is a tribute to the Calypso Queen of the Road, Calypso Rose, and it's called The Queen of the Road. This was done in Canada. It's written by Roma Spencer. Some of our residents went to Canada to assist with that production and to participate in that production, and we felt that this is one of the activities that we needed to have as part of our carnival. So we are taking carnival theatre by storm. So this particular production chronicles the life of Calypso Rose through her music. And we have all the talent of TPAC coming to the fore to put on this beautiful exhibition of us paying homage to Calypso Rose and her enduring legacy. And this is taking place on Friday night at 7 o'clock at the Shore Park Complex. Children under the age of 18, basically school-age children, are free. Adults, just $100. This is something that you cannot miss. It's one night only. It's us saying to Calypso Rose, we see you, we love you, we will remember you, we thank God for you, and I can't wait for the world to see the talents that Tobago has through the Tobago Performing Arts Company and to showcase what Tobago can put on the world stage.
Councillor Burris, apologies for cutting through. However, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and sharing with us the Carnival excellence that is Tobago Carnival 2023.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Trinidad and Tobago, there's more coming up on Tobago Thursdays. Don't go anywhere.
This is my island.